Good morning. Last day of July. I'm going down this road that's all muddy from the rains last night. I don't know how much rain we had, an inch or two, something like that. It was pretty heavy. All the choices I made last night were the wrong ones, or at least as far as the timing was. So pretty much everything's wet, and this road is so muddy. Maybe you can get a sense there of the clay and how it's sticking. And I've come very close in the 1/10 or 2/10 I've walked so far to get back to the highway here, to just falling flat on my side because it just slides out from underneath me. Haven't fallen down yet, but come close. J&T brought me a root beer last night, which I didn't get to enjoy until this morning. That's okay. Tasted great. And gave me a little more water this morning. This was supposed to be a shortcut back to the highway. I'm not sure it's going to turn out that way. Oh! Whoa! That hurt. Oh, kind of hyperextended the knee there. Okay, I'm putting the camera away and using both my trekking poles. How's that? So I made it into Rawlins, 10:30. So I've had a pretty good day, sort of relaxing. I did want to recount some things from last night, and it really ended up being a comedy of errors. Pretty much every decision I made from the time that I set up my camp was the wrong one, or at least at the wrong time. So I had said, I'm not going to do this again, get pinned down in my tent and trying to keep my tent erect during the night by holding the trekking poles that I use for tent poles, and not get any sleep at all. So I had told myself, well, if necessary, I'm going to go to the alcove of the concrete pit toilet. Well, error number one was when I saw a cell coming in pretty rapidly, and I didn't immediately strike my tent and move all my things into that alcove. So the result was I got pinned down in the tent, and basically everything got wet. Sleeping bag, yeah, there was a pool of water at the foot, there was a pool of water at my head, the food bags were all wet, the pack was wet, etc. And it kept getting harder and harder, and I kept saying to myself, well, as soon as it lets up, I'll make a dash for the toilet, which wasn't far away, maybe 50 yards, something like that. It just kept getting harder and harder. So when I finally did make it there, the next decision I made, it had two entrances to it, one facing east and one facing west. The first storm hit with winds coming from the east, so I went around to the other side and basically set myself up in the entrance, the alcove, covered over, concrete block all on three sides, and the next rain came in from the west. And it was an hour or two later, and it was definitely more gentle. But after a while, I noticed that the sound of the raindrops was a little different, and I turned on my headlamp, and sure enough, the whole lower part of my sleeping bag was getting soaked. it was right in the rain. So I actually had to get into the pit toilet, move all my stuff into the toilet, which I was able to do. I was able to sort of stretch out in there. Well, the rain was strong enough and it lasted long enough that the rain ended up flowing into the toilet area, right under the door. So after a while, I noticed, I think I sort of was adjusting on my air mattress, and I noticed this like squishy, and I turned on my headlamp again, and basically I was an island on my air mattress surrounded by a wet floor. And if you can imagine what the concrete floor of a pit toilet is like, it was pretty nasty. So that was another mistake. Well, by that point, I really had no choice. Fast forward about an hour or so, and while a modern pit toilet doesn't smell atrocious, it's not great, right? So after a while, I opened up the door to let in some fresh air, and that was fine for a while. But what I forgot was it also lets in all the vermin. So I think I was alerted to that when one hit my face when I was in my sleeping bag. So scared that mouse or whatever it was away and had to close the door again. So it was sort of a comedy of errors. And I had made the right decision, but I didn't execute it at the proper time. So that's enough about last night. The day was overcast coming in. You saw the earlier video of the mud. I heard some very interesting stories from Just Jim and Pockets once we all got into town. They had tried night hiking, and the storm basically tracked them down and had surrounded them and made everything wet, and they had to set up a tent site at midnight, something like that, basically surrounded by puddles. I mean, they were setting it up in the water because there was so much of it. A really pleasant thing happened as we were telling these stories to each other in the restaurant, and the door to the bar opened up, and who should walk in but Simon and Martina, the Swiss couple. So I've seen them in Pie Town. I had lunch with them in Twin Lakes, Colorado. I had lunch with them another time when I happened to be having lunch on the trail with Fireball. We saw them again in Riverside. I mean, they just show up. So we've sort of said, well, see you in Lander, or we'll see you in Pinedale, something like that. So it was very nice to see them, and they're always very interesting and good to talk to. But I did want to recount sort of what had happened last night. So it's 3 nights in a row now that I have had very, very little sleep. I'm really on a sleep deficit. So in town, in Rollins tonight, and I'm sure I'm going to sleep like a rock. So hope you're safe and secure too.